Yeah, dude, YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Those of you who are new, welcome. My name is MelisaMarie. I am a nursing student, hopefully for only like 3 more months. I attend Chamberlain University. As you see, I don't usually post wearing the labels and stuff, so this is very like a once in a lifetime thing because I'm not even trying to promote them like that. But yeah, I'm gonna be doing 3 recaps back to back like a Drake record. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about just campus stuff because I did transition between campuses in the midst of taking these classes. I'm going to talk more in detail about transitioning the campuses in a different video because that's more life update type stuff. And so I am going to do like a life update video about why I transferred, how the transfer process went, and also answer a bunch of your Q&A type questions because you guys been asking me and I've been neglectful. Mental health NR 326 I took at the Atlanta campus. So this was interesting. This was back in September 2021. It was interesting because it was like the first like hybrid type class that they tried to do, which we had weeks 1, 2, and 3 were virtual, and then weeks 4 and 5 were on campus, and then 6 was virtual, but then we had to go on campus for the CMS, and then week 7 was virtual, but then we had to go on campus for the final. Like, it was so strange. And then there was no kind of social distancing. When I tell you we were bumper to bumper, like elbow to elbow with our peers, like it was very ghetto, very much giving coronavirus jumping from person to person. Like, it was not cute. The class itself, how I would describe mental health, it's really a completely different mind of its own. Like, I don't think mental health is a difficult class. It's basically psychology. The chapters we went through were illness, historical and theoretical concepts, psychopharmacology, ethical and legal issues, relationship, developmental and theoretical communication, theoretical models of personality development, self-study, suicide prevention, depressive disorders, bipolar and related disorders, and the pharmacology that goes with that. So that would be like, you know, SSRIs and MAOIs and, you know, that kind of stuff. The nursing process and psychiatric and mental health self-study, crisis intervention, anger management, behavior therapy, cognitive therapy, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety related disorders, electroconvulsive therapy, somatic symptoms and dissociative disorders. Somatic stuff is really interesting to me. Like when you talk about like Munchausen by proxy disorder, like we talked about what's that little girl's name, Gypsy, like the Gypsy story. That thing is super interesting. Like, it's so crazy to me that a parent really can make their kids sick mentally. And then schizophrenia, spectrum and other psychotic disorders, eating disorders, you know, like binge disorders, anorexia nervosa, personality disorders, bereavement, substance related disorders, addictive disorders, neurocognitive disorders, survivors of abuse, neglect, children and adolescents, aging, community mental health nursing, etc. So those are like the basic topics, and I didn't like dive into extreme detail except for the ones that I shouted out that were like interesting to me. And so with that being said, there's really not much application in this class. It's pretty much 90% memorization. When it comes to the type of questions you'll get on exams, it won't really be like you won't really have to figure out how to get to an answer. You just have to know the information. And there's a significant amount of pharm in my opinion. So if pharmacology is not your strong suit, you want to definitely brush up on your psych meds. One thing that I will also note that I don't think I recognized until I transfer campuses, I don't know if the curriculum is truly the same across all campuses. So when I talk, take things like with a little bit of a grain of salt. But as far as the Atlanta campus, when we went through mental health, we had a lot of information and a little bit of time. We went through probably, it felt like 5 chapters a week. Would I recommend getting the textbook, reading the textbook? Absolutely not. I would not. Again, take my advice with a grain of salt. I just genuinely don't feel like it's something that you have the time to waste on. I just don't. As far as CMS, I did super well on the CMS. I always recommend adaptive quizzing. Your adaptive quizzes will be your everything. Do your adaptive quizzing, guys. Practice A and practice B on ATI and the adaptive quizzing. Those 3 things will carry you through for the CMS. Read your rationales, internalize your rationales, and that'll really help you to understand and choose the correct answers during a CMS. Of course, the questions will not be the exact same, but it'll help guide you. My clinical experience was pretty interesting. I had a great professor for my clinical. I had the actual department head for my clinical, who was supposed to be my professor actually, but she had an emergency with her family in Canada, so she wasn't able to teach. But she ended up being my clinical instructor, and so she was with us at Emory Decatur in the psych unit. And that was a good time. I think, you know, in a perfect world, not in a perfect world, that would not be my perfect world, I take that back. In a different world, I should say, I would have an interesting time being a psych nurse. I can exist in a world where I don't give a crap about what anybody says, sure, but after a while I feel like you start to care. I probably should have started with this. So mental health clinical is 6 weeks, and it's from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. for 6 weeks. And I believe it's usually the first 6 weeks. So it should be for the first 6 weeks. Mine was the last 6 weeks because we got screwed over. Because like I said, my professor had an emergency in Canada, and with COVID and everything, like her getting back and having to transition and all, we ended up starting in week 3. So we had week 3 through week 8 instead of 1 through 6. So whatever. So in a different world, I could definitely be a psych nurse, and it would be like really cool, but like it's really high anxiety for me actually, just because you really got to be on your P's and Q's the entire time. There were several instances where things could have went left quick. Thankfully my professor, like, she's really well trained. She's been in the field for like 30 years. She knows to watch her back, and when you walk around the unit you recognize that there are mirrors everywhere. There are not that many opportunities for patients to have a diversional incident. There's not any corners for them to like plot something out, which, you know, they be thinking about, honey. They be thinking, like, they be busy in their heads. But I was basically saying, after a while, like, I'm good about not caring about what people think, but after a while, you know, you be caring. Sometimes you be caring. I be caring sometimes you get a little sensitive or whatever. One time I had a patient and she started off real nice, you know, we were talking, she's like, I'm from Brooklyn. I was like, oh my god, I love New York, girl, EA. And this is like, you know, at 7 a.m. And then by the time we doing lunch, we're giving out lunch trays, and I guess she didn't like what she had, or, you know, she has a history of violence, and so she couldn't get any utensils, and it kind of pissed her off. And so now she's cussing everybody out. Like, she calling me all kinds of B's and all kinds of threats on my life and my future kids' lives and my husband's life, my mom's lives, and she gonna find me when she gets out, and all kinds of things, and she gonna poison me. It was excessive. And, you know, at first it was like, okay, whatever, but then after a while I was like, you know, I kind of believe her, because I believe that she could find me. You know, and it's kind of crazy because if we were on a one-on-one, like on the street, she could definitely take me. And so just thinking about that is like, if I actually if I worked in a unit like this in real life every day for years, I feel like it would take a toll on me mentally. Like, I would end up there. Like, I would become a patient. Like, me and the patients would become one. And I don't think I want that for myself. But in theory, like I said, in a different world where I did not develop the anxiety that I now have, that would be fun. Having certain conversations with patients can be interesting. You know, talking with them about their circumstance and why they think they're there, what they think may be going on with them. Like, some patients may think they're pregnant, though they are very much not. They're very much postmenopausal. Or some patients may think they're on a boat fleeing from Cuba. Or some patients may think they're on a plane and it's crashing. Like, you know, those conversations can be very interesting, very intriguing, also can be very sad, because, you know, you recognize that they're not in their proper mental space. or they, you know, you talk to them about the lack of support and what brought them to the place, because they have no stability at home, they have no parents to help guide them, they have no family to help provide that love that they need. You recognize that their Maslow needs have never been met. Their cognitive and their social development has been stunted for a long time. So you recognize these things. And so like when people become serial killers or they become sociopaths, it's almost like some of it is inherent because of how their brain is developed from birth, and some of it is really just environmental. It's like, damn, like they didn't even have a chance. So it becomes sad, and some of it is just truly intriguing. I'm one of those people who goes to bed with the ID channel on. You ever seen that meme where it's like her head was cut off, her leg was cut off, and the girl is just like eating, like what's she eating, like Cheerios and going to sleep or something? Yeah, that's me.
Her arms were cut off. Her legs were cut off. Her ears were cut off. Her tongue was cut off. Her nose was cut off. Her eyeballs were plucked out. Her eyebrows were then waxed. Her tongue was sliced open. Her hair was cut off.
So I'm very intrigued by criminal history and stuff like that. In reality, really not for me. Maybe on like the back burner end, like I could be a practitioner and like prescribe medications, but to be a nurse in the field would not work for me. It's just not it. Like even like doing vital signs with the patients made me a little bit uncomfortable because I felt like I was disturbing them. I didn't even feel like I was providing care. I'm in they have a teeny little space that they're stuck in with none of their personal belongings. They're stripped in there. It's like jail. They're like stripped in this little box. There's the white walls, the little hard bed. Like they have no personal belongings. They barely get any time to themselves. I or anybody else can just walk in at any time. Like it's really like it's kind of like dehumanizing in my opinion. So when I'm taking vitals, it's like, this is corny. Like I don't even want to do this to them. You know what I mean? So of all the specialties, since I can now say I've taken every single specialty, wow. So of all the specialties, I would rank mental health as the easiest by far of all the specialties. And actually, I'm probably gonna end up ranking all the specialties at the end of my next 2 videos. So yeah, that's all I got to say for this recap. Make sure you go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe for more. I'm gonna post the next 2, which will be Peds and Mother Baby, so stay tuned. They'll hopefully be more exciting. I'll hopefully have some more clips and stuff, and hopefully you saw my last video, which had a bunch of mental health clips, because that was the video where I was flying back and forth between where I moved to and Atlanta when I was doing my mental health rotation. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.